Hi everybody, Lucifer here, and you've seen the title of the video, so you can kind of figure out what I'm gonna talk about. So yeah, everybody knows that we are in a global clusterfuck. And I know people avoid saying COVID-19 because it automatically pushes the video down in the search engine, but since this is a channel with basically no viewership, I don't give a fuck. So, I'm here to talk about how my country, Croatia, handled COVID-19. And I do gotta say that when the pandemic started, when the lockdown was issued, I thought they were overreacting. I was wrong. I admit that, I was wrong. But this is how it went. There was one or two suspected cases in my region. And the regional emergency headquarters, I don't know exactly how to call it, but yeah, I think emergency headquarters is a good translation. Basically, the regional emergency headquarters decided to issue a lockdown for my region, which is fairly close to Italy, which made sense because this was back in March, and in that time the amount of infected people in Italy was skyrocketing, like playing Plague Inc. on easy. So yeah, my region went under lockdown first, and it was criticized by the central government that we are panicking too much. Okay, we're under lockdown. Classes started online, everything kind of functions. Other regions kind of have to follow in because the numbers start rising slowly, people get infected, mostly people who come back from abroad. Then a statewide lockdown is issued and people are okay with it. I went back to the city once or twice because, as you know, I rent this apartment, so I'm not usually in the city. Basically, I went back once or twice in this city or in a town nearby where I live, and even on the street, people kept their distance while waiting in the order for the pharmacy. Outside of the pharmacy, of course, because only one person was allowed inside. The small hole-in-the-walls kind of style pharmacy, because there's not a lot of space in some older towns, at least in centers. Doesn't matter. People, even on the street, were holding their distance. They knew that something was going on. They knew that keeping their distance and wearing masks helped. And people wore masks, people kept their distance. No problem. But then, Croatia was doing good, and some people said that we could get the best out of a bad situation because Croatia is dependent on tourism money. And global pandemic and everything, tourism will definitely take a hit. But Spain was in shambles. Italy was a disaster. So other tourism spots around Europe were also in chaos. But Croatia stood with fairly low number of infected people, fairly strict measures, yes, but everything was working fine. And some people did say that the amount of money we'll get from tourism is gonna be a lot smaller than usual, but it might be decent if we play our cards right. our government did not play their cards right. Why? Because in May we had parliamentary elections. And before the parliamentary elections there was some propositions to postpone it. Maybe for the next year. And I doubt that most of people would have anything against that. Especially in the midst of a global pandemic. But since the governing party kind of had a very low majority and was kind of in some internal turmoil, they started laxing the restrictions. And the elections went through. And they won. Because of course they did, because our people can't. I'm gonna say this and it's gonna piss off a lot of people, but a lot of Croats are democratically illiterate. So yeah, the party that was in power won again, okay, it was legal. The thing is that after that, they tried to put back some of the restrictions, and that's when shit started going down. People who followed all the rules because they saw point in it saw what was happening. One day you're relaxing the restrictions because there's gotta be election. After the election you're pushing the restrictions back. Makes no sense. So things went to shit. And since it was May, June, the tourism season started. And in one moment, people from all over Europe basically, and that includes most heavy hit places like Spain, Italy, France, all of them could come to Croatia with no checks. And guess what happened? The number of newly sick started rising. Astronomically. So yeah, things went to shit. People started being irate with the National Emergency Headquarters, and people started being pissed off with a lot of stuff. The thing with Croatia, with the mentality here is, when there's a crisis, magically everything starts functioning properly. When there were major fires around the city of Split, which is the second largest city, people self-organized to defend the outskirts of the city from fires. Local... Not cheerleading. Fans. Fans of the football club Hajduk and their organization Torcida, they self-organized to defend suburbs from fires. When during the start of the pandemic, one or two major earthquakes, 5.1, 5.2 on Richter scale, hit Zagreb, which was the capital, you had people literally carrying incubators from one hospital to another because one was hit more than the other. Self-organization is amazing in a time of crisis. Compliance with the law is amazing in a time of crisis. Public services are amazing in a time of crisis, but when something becomes normal, like COVID was, because we lived in this regime for several months, public services go to shit. For example, people post stories on Facebook. Now take that with a grain of salt, because everybody has their reasons to post lies or truths, doesn't matter. Woman calls an ambulance for... Doesn't matter, actually, I know the reason. She called an ambulance because her father-in-law had a heart attack. They refused to send a team on the ground until she took his temperature. Sad thing is, I find that believable in my country. I find that believable. This is not the only story, I read several of them. This is just an example. But the sad thing is, I find it believable. Because the bureaucracy, the incapacity of thought in public service in Croatia it's staggering. So yeah, what's happening now in Croatia? Number of newly diseased people from COVID rose over 200 a day in a country of barely 4 million people. Every weekend, the numbers miraculously drop under 50 newly diseased. Why? Because they only do tests from around 9 to 13 hours. So yeah, from 9 AM to 1 PM. That's how long they do tests. And numbers miraculously drop. Who would have known? My country is a joke. My country is a clusterfuck. The situation is worse now than it was when all of this shit started. But when it started, I had classes online. Now, I have them face to face. When it started, the student restaurant was closed. Now it works no problem. And do you think people actually wear masks and everything? Hell they do. It's a restaurant. How the fuck are you going to eat with a mask on? Only thing they did was put glass between the staff and the people taking food, which is okay, that is reasonable, and I agree with that. But for fuck's sakes, that thing should not be working. I should have classes online right now. And I'm pissed. Because my government deemed tourism money more valued than my life. And the life of a lot of other people. So, what's meant to do? I mean, only thing I can do is start a bloody revolution, but I'm kind of too lazy for that. Big lad mafia, I'm too lazy to fight you. Seriously though, I'm frustrated. I'm very frustrated with the situation that I'm in. Anyways, I'm gonna stop there before I get myself on a few more watch lists. I say enough of stupid shit, so I'm basically on every watch list that there is at this point, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, somebody asked me if it would be a good idea to blow up Croatian parliament. I would ask him how many kilos of explosive he needs. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, or this, whatever it was, leave a like, comment, subscribe, check the links in the description. Yours to do and might hope for. And bye.